Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are stepping into the spiritual courtroom where a verdict has finally been rendered. You are watching this because you feel the shock of a sudden, brutal ending, or perhaps the deafening silence of a door that has slammed shut forever. You might be blaming yourself, wondering what you did wrong, or why God allowed this pain. But I am here to reframe your reality with a truth that will shake your bones. You didn't lose them. You were rescued from them. The separation you are grieving was not a rejection, it was a divine intervention. Today, we are going to expose exactly what the narcissist felt the moment the hand of God came down and severed the cord that bound you to their darkness. You have spent months, maybe years, praying for a change. You prayed for them to see you, to love you, to stop hurting you. And when the end came, it felt like your prayers were ignored. But they weren't ignored, they were answered in the only way that would save your life. God saw what you could not see. He saw the conversations they had behind your back. He saw the darkness rotting in their soul. He saw the plot for your destruction. The separation was the equivalent of a parent snatching a child out of the path of a speeding truck. It was abrupt, it was painful, and it was absolutely necessary. But what did they feel? You assume they felt relief. You assume they skipped off into the sunset with their new supply, laughing at your misery. That is the lie the enemy wants you to believe. The truth is far more terrifying for them. When God separates a narcissist from their primary source of light, which was you, they feel a cosmic shock. It is a sudden, violent realization that their control has been overridden by a higher authority. For a creature that believes they are God, facing the true God's boundary is an existential crisis that shatters their false reality. Think about the energy you brought to their life. You were the intercessor. You were the one praying for them, covering them, loving them despite their demons. You were the spiritual shield standing between them and the consequences of their own actions. When you were removed, that shield evaporated. The narcissist suddenly felt the raw, freezing wind of their own karma hitting their skin for the first time. They didn't feel free, they felt exposed. They felt the terrifying sensation of being naked in a storm without your love to keep them warm. This separation is often characterized by a strange series of events, blocked paths, sudden revelations, or physical relocations that made it impossible to stay together. This is the Red Sea dynamic. God parted the waters to let you pass, and then crashed them down on the pursuer. The narcissist felt the water crashing down. They felt the walls closing in. They realized that their usual tricks, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the charm, were no longer working. It was as if their magic wand had suddenly snapped in half. You must understand that the narcissist viewed you as their property. To them, you were an object they owned, a battery they could drain at will. When you were taken from them, they felt a theft of supply. They didn't mourn the loss of a relationship, they raged at the loss of a possession. Imagine a thief who reaches into his pocket to find his stolen wallet gone. That is what they felt. A mixture of violation, rage, and confusion. Who gave you the right to leave? Who gave you the permission to be free? The silence that follows this separation is not peaceful for them, it is deafening. Without your voice validating them, arguing with them, or crying over them, they are left alone with the noise in their own head. And trust me, the inside of a narcissist's head is a torture chamber. You were the distraction. You were the noise that drowned out their demons. When God removed you, He turned off the music, and now they have to listen to the screaming of their own shame. They also felt a sudden drop in their spiritual status. Narcissists often attach themselves to high-vibration people, empaths, healers, believers, to mimic that light. They wear your grace like a costume. When you left, the costume fell off. They looked in the mirror and saw the monster again. They felt the ugliness of their own spirit returning. They know, deep down, that they are not the person they pretend to be, and without you there to reflect a better image, they are forced to confront their own reflection. Do not mistake their immediate jump into a new relationship as happiness. That is not joy, that is panic. That is a drowning man grabbing a piece of driftwood. God separated you, and in their terror of the void, they grabbed the first thing they could find. But the driftwood is not a boat. It cannot save them. They feel the difference. They feel the lack of depth, the lack of soul, the lack of you. They are trying to replace a diamond with a piece of glass, and they know the difference every time the light hits it. As we dive deeper into this, remember, this was a rescue mission. The pain you feel is the pain of the surgery, not the pain of the disease. The disease has been cut out. Now we are going to look at the pathology of the patient who was left on the operating table, the narcissist, and realize that their survival without you is nothing more than a slow, agonizing decay. To understand what they felt, you must understand what you were to them. You were not just a partner, you were grade A spiritual supply. You offered forgiveness they didn't earn, loyalty they didn't deserve, and light they couldn't generate. When God severed that tie, the narcissist entered a state of immediate spiritual famine. Imagine a parasite that has been feeding on a healthy host for years suddenly being ripped off and thrown onto cold concrete. They are starving. The hunger is not for food, it is for the life force you provided. The narcissist operates on a frequency of pride and entitlement. When the separation happened, they felt a narcissistic injury of biblical proportions. They believe they are the authors of reality. They believe they decide when it's over. When the universe intervened and ended it against their will, or gave you the strength to walk away, it shattered their delusion of omnipotence. They felt small. For a being that survives on feeling grand, feeling small is a fate worse than death. It triggers a primal, reptilian fear. You likely carried that emotional load for the entire relationship. You processed their feelings, you managed their moods, you walked on eggshells to keep the peace. When you were removed, that load crashed down on them. They suddenly had to carry the weight of their own disorder. They felt the crushing pressure of their own unmanaged emotions. They don't have the mechanisms to process shame or guilt, so these emotions fester inside them like a septic wound. They also felt the loss of their scapegoat. Who are they going to blame now? When things went wrong, it was your fault. When they were unhappy, it was your fault. When God removed you, He removed their dumping ground. Now, when they feel miserable, they have nowhere to point the finger. The finger slowly starts to curl back toward themselves. This causes intense cognitive dissonance. They are frantic, looking for a new target, because looking inward is impossible for them. The narcissist fears exposure more than anything. You knew the truth. You saw behind the mask. But you kept their secrets because you loved them. Now that you are separated, they live in terror that you will speak. They feel the paranoia of a criminal who knows the witness has entered witness protection. They are looking over their shoulder, waiting for the truth to come out. God didn't just separate you, He liberated the truth teller. Consider the concept of the light and the moth. They were the moth, drawn to your flame. But moths burn up if they get too close. The separation was God turning off the light to save the bulb, leaving the moth in the dark. They felt the blindness of that darkness immediately. They are stumbling around, trying to find a new light source, but everything else is dim in comparison. They are experiencing luminescence withdrawal. They felt the judgment. Not necessarily from you, but from the situation. Narcissists, despite their atheism or fake piety, are deeply superstitious. When a relationship ends in a way that feels fated or forced by circumstances beyond their control, they feel cursed. They feel that the universe has turned against them. This paranoia eats at them. They wonder why their luck has run out. They feel the heavy hand of justice pressing down on their life. The new supply cannot replicate the spiritual contract you had. You might have had a soul tie or a deep karmic bond. The narcissist felt that connection, even if they abused it. When they try to replicate it with someone else, they feel the void of superficiality. They are going through the motions, the love bombing, the mirroring, but it feels hollow. They are actors on a stage with no audience. They feel the fraudulent nature of their own existence more acutely than ever. They also felt a surge of demonic envy. As they watch you heal, as they watch God bless you in your singleness, they are consumed with envy. They hate that you can survive without them. They hate that you are still standing. They wanted to be the one to destroy you, and the fact that God pulled you out of the fire before you turned to ash makes them furious. They are jealous of your favor. Ultimately, in this phase, they felt the echo. They shouted their abuse into the void, and for the first time, it didn't hit you, it echoed back at them. They are surrounded by the reverberations of their own toxicity. You are safe in the shelter of the Most High, while they are outside in the storm they created, getting soaked by their own rain. The dramatic turning point arrives when the narcissist decides to fight God. They do not accept the separation. They view your departure not as a divine protection, but as a challenge to their dominance. This is where the hoovering attempts become spiritual warfare. They try to play God. They try to manipulate reality to force you back into alignment with their script. They feel a manic, obsessive drive to prove that they are more powerful than the forces keeping you apart. They will try to use spiritual manipulation. They might text you saying, "God told me we belong together," or "I had a dream about us." They are weaponizing your faith against you. They feel a sinister delight in trying to twist the very thing that saved you, your connection to God, into a leash to drag you back. This is the ultimate blasphemy. They are impersonating the Holy Spirit to trick you back into hell. When you don't respond, when you stay behind the barrier God set up, they feel narcissistic rage. This isn't just anger, it is a toddler's tantrum amplified by a demon's malice. They cannot comprehend a world where they are told no. They feel the walls of their reality shrinking. They realize that their charm, their money, their lies, none of it is working. They are punching a ghost. They begin to smear you to anyone who will listen. If they can't control you, they will try to control how others see you. This is their attempt to overwrite God's narrative. God calls you chosen, they call you crazy. God calls you free, they call you unstable. They feel a desperate need to assassinate your character because your character is the mirror that exposes their lack of one. The replacement phase is accelerated. They rush to find a new partner not out of love, but out of defiance. They want to show you, and God, that they are fine. Look, I replaced her in a week. But inside, they feel the frantic pace of a hamster on a wheel. They are running to stand still. They know the new supply is a prop. They feel the exhaustion of having to train a new victim from scratch. They start to experience karmic boomerangs. The bad luck starts to pile up. Financial issues, health scares, legal troubles. Without your protective covering, the consequences of their chaotic life start landing. They feel victimized. Why is this happening to me? They cry, never realizing that you were the umbrella, and now it's raining. They feel the cold, hard logic of cause and effect for the first time. They might try to stalk you, physically or digitally. This is their attempt to act as the all-seeing eye. They want to be omnipresent in your life because they know they are no longer omnipotent. They feel a sickening obsession with your new life. Every smile on your face in a photo feels like a slap in their face. They are monitoring the prisoner who escaped, wondering how you managed to pick the lock. The narcissist feels of the silence of God. You have peace, they have silence. There is a difference. Peace is a presence, silence is an absence. They feel abandoned. Even though they may not believe, their soul knows it is cut off from the source. They are wandering in the wilderness without a compass. They feel a profound, chilling isolation that no amount of parties, alcohol, or sex can fix. They realize that you have leveled up. God separated you to elevate you. The narcissist sees this elevation and feels inferiority. They realize you were always out of their league, and they were just dragging you down to their level. Now that the weight is cut, you are floating up, and they are sinking. They feel the gravity of their own mediocrity pulling them down to the bottom. In this struggle, they finally feel powerless. For a control freak, this is the ultimate torture. They cannot control the outcome. They cannot control you. They cannot control God. They are fighting a war they have already lost, flailing against the currents of destiny that are washing you to a safer shore. As the separation solidifies, the narcissist's internal kingdom begins to crumble. The false self, the mask they wore for the world, starts to crack. They feel a psychological decompensation. Without the steady supply you provided, their personality becomes erratic. They might act unhinged, make impulsive decisions, or spiral into addiction. They feel the chaos they used to project onto you now consuming them from the inside. The new supply inevitably fails to satisfy. The narcissist begins to devalue them rapidly. They feel a sense of buyer's remorse. They traded a diamond for a rock, and they know it. They treat the new partner with contempt, punishing them for not being you. The narcissist feels trapped in a cycle of their own making, doomed to repeat the same miserable script with different actors. They feel the ghost of your memory. You haunt them. Not because you are trying to, but because you left a mark. Your kindness, your patience, your genuine love, it is a stark contrast to the transactional world they live in. They compare everyone to you, and everyone falls short. They feel the bitter taste of regret, not because they hurt you, but because they lost the best thing they ever had. The social mask slips. People start to see through them. Without you there to smooth things over and make excuses for them, their arrogance and cruelty become obvious to the world. They feel that loss of reputation. They see the side eyes, the whispers. They realize their fortress of lies is built on sand, and the tide is coming in. They experience the dark night of the soul, but without the redemption. They sit alone in the dark, feeling the crushing weight of their own emptiness. They feel a soul rot. It is a sensation of spiritual decay. They know something is deeply wrong with them, but they are too cowardly to face it. They numb the feeling with distractions, but the rot continues to spread. They feel unlucky. They view your departure as the start of their downfall. They might even blame you for cursing them. This projection protects their ego, but it doesn't stop the pain. They feel like the universe is conspiring against them. They are living in a self-fulfilling prophecy of doom. The hoovering stops being calculated and becomes pathetic. If they reach out now, it's not with charm, but with desperation. I'm dying without you. My life is falling apart. They feel the humiliation of begging. They are the emperor with no clothes, shivering in the cold, asking the person they exiled for a blanket. They feel the finality. There comes a moment when they realize you are never coming back. God has closed the door and sealed it. This realization hits them like a physical blow. They feel the death of the fantasy. The fantasy that they could always get you back, that you would always be there, is dead. They have to attend the funeral of their own delusion. They look at their life and see a wasteland. Without your watering, their garden has died. Their home feels cold. Their success feels empty. They feel the sterility of a life lived for the self. They have everything they wanted, total control, no accountability, and it is a miserable, lonely hell. Ultimately, they feel the judgment of truth. The truth is, they broke something beautiful, and they cannot fix it. They are left with the pieces. They feel the sharp edges of the broken relationship cutting into them. They are bleeding out spiritually, and there is no one left to bandage the wound. We arrive at the final truth. Why did God separate you? Because he had a purpose for you that could not be fulfilled while you were being drained by a parasite. The narcissist was an anchor. God cut the chain so the ship could sail. What they feel now, the pain, the loss, the confusion, is simply the result of gravity taking over. They are sinking because they refuse to swim. You are sailing because you were made for the ocean. You do not need to look back. Remember Lot's wife. When God rescues you from Sodom, you do not look back at the burning city. If you look back, you turn to a pillar of salt, you become frozen in the past. Let them burn. Let them deal with the consequences of their choices. Their suffering is not your responsibility to fix, it is their lesson to learn. The narcissist is now in spiritual quarantine. God removed you to protect you from the infection. They are locked in a room with their own virus. Do not feel guilty for being healthy. Do not feel guilty for breathing fresh air. You served your time in their prison. Your sentence is over. You have been pardoned by the King. Understand that their happiness on social media is a lie. It is a billboard erected over a graveyard. Do not envy the dead. You have life. You have a future. They have a curated image and a rotting soul. God separated you from the dead so you could join the living. You are the one that got away. In their mind, you will always be the one who escaped the trap. This makes you a legend in their personal history. But to you, they should just be a lesson. A painful, expensive lesson that you never have to repeat. Use this separation to rebuild your temple. The narcissist desecrated your holy of holies. Now, you clean it out. You light the incense. You invite the Holy Spirit back into the spaces they occupied. You reclaim your ground. You are holy ground, and they are no longer allowed to walk on you with muddy feet. God did not just save you from something, He saved you for something. There is a destiny waiting for you that requires your full energy. The narcissist was a distraction sent by the enemy to keep you from that destiny. The distraction is gone. The path is clear. Run your race. The narcissist will spend the rest of their life looking for a duplicate of you. They will search the world for another soul as bright, as giving, as pure. They will never find it. God broke the mold when He made you, and He hid you from them forever. Stand tall in your freedom. The chains have fallen off. The door is open. The guard is asleep. Walk out of the prison. The sun is shining outside, and it is shining for you. God separated you because He loves you too much to let you be destroyed by someone who loves themselves more than anything. The narcissist finally felt the loss of a grace they never appreciated. Let them feel it. You just feel the wind in your hair. You are free.